Do you see how in modern times when people stick stuff on the web, they probably want you to use it? I mean, don't stick it on the web if you're not trying to give it away to the world. What is the web? Here, world, look at this, right? And yet there are people out on the web who stick stuff on the web with the assumption that it's still mine, but look at this, take it, it's still mine, take it, it's still mine. Because the world is of two different minds, you're going to find that we live in a world where there are lawsuits flying around that will disagree with your ethics. There are ethics flying around that will disagree with your ethics. There's all kinds of messes about it. I strongly recommend respect other people's intellectual property stuff because they have the law on their side. You can get sued. It's bad. Also, I strongly recommend use licenses because it makes it clear when you do or don't care about copyright law, and it tells people what they're allowed to do with it. And do understand how copyright works, because if you don't, it's going to burn you at some point. Don't accidentally copy and paste without giving proper attribution or meeting the requirements of the license. And just to be clear, some of the things I usually test on, basically one of the things you need to know as a software programmer are the basic licenses. There are BSD, Apache, MIT licenses. These licenses all say, do what you want. There's the CC0 license, or the WTFPL, which basically say, no copyright. How does that differ from do what you want? Yeah, this one kind of says, I really don't care. This one says, you can do what you want, but it's still mine. Right? It kind of says, hey, you should really acknowledge me. You're not allowed to change the license or whatever. I guess technically someone could take a CC0 work, change it, and then accuse you of having made those changes or something like that. So there's a lot of people that argue you should never give anything totally away. My attitude is, you know, I'm not going to go sue somebody anyway. So the only teeth that these licenses have are if you sue somebody. And since I'm not going to sue them anyway, why not just waive copyright altogether? Notice something though, waiving your rights to legally sue somebody is not the same as waiving all ethics, right? If I distribute something under CC0, does that mean it's okay for somebody to take my work and say, look, I made this all by myself from scratch? Legally, yes. Ethically, a lie is still a lie. I mean, it's still dishonest, right? And some people get the law mixed up with ethics. You cannot misrepresent the authorship of a work honestly, because that's not honest. But you can do it legally if they don't sue you. So the CC0 says there's no more legal restrictions on the document. This one says legally I can still sue you if you say you wrote it. But you can stick it in your code, you can sell it, you can do whatever you want. There's the GPL. This is the general public license. This is what Richard Stallman calls free software. This one means you can do what you want, but you don't get a license to do what you want unless you also put your works under the same license. So the GPL creates this open source community where proprietary companies can't contribute unless they share their works. This is really what free software is. It's free in that it doesn't get locked up again like that printer did. And finally, there's proprietary, which means give me money or no can use. Or you don't necessarily have to bend for money. You can say, meet my terms. Proprietary basically means you get no license until you come begging to me and I contract with you in some way, okay? Pretty much everything you do will fall under these categories, and I reserve the right on a test to kind of say, which license shall I use, or what do these licenses mean, or what's the basis for copyright, or what are some primary issues of it, or something like that, because you need to know these things, okay? So now you've seen that. I think we're good on copyright law. Let me just say a couple things on other types of intellectual property. I'll just bring that up so I have a place to type. There is copyright. Protects Creative works from mechanical copying. There's also something called patents. What do patents do? Okay, what's mechanical copying? Let's suppose you hear a song on the radio. Can you go home and, while retaining the song in your head, write down the song on music and claim it's yours, according to copyright law? The answer is yes, you can. It's totally okay. There's nothing against copyright law of producing your own creative works inspired by other creative works. The things that copyright laws protect against are mechanical copying. If you sit there and copy note for note somebody's music, you're doing it systematically, in which case you violated copyright law. If you basically get the idea in your head, if I go sing my own version of a Shania Twain song, don't know why I'd do that, that's totally okay. Now, that doesn't mean that every judge in the world knows this, and some people have been even successfully sued for things that do not technically violate copyright law. So yeah, laws make things a mess, and lawyers are really good at doing that. But you can officially, technically, you can copy anything as long as you're not doing it mechanically or systematically or with Control-C, Control-V with a computer. Okay, patents protect ideas. That's a lot stronger than copyright law. The idea of, so let's suppose I come up with a new mechanism for artificial intelligence. Nobody can implement even the same idea, even if they do it their own way, even if they come up with the same idea without hearing about it. No matter how they achieve it, if the idea is the same as mine, it's protected by patents. Patents have become a major problem because people have been patenting stupid things. For example, Amazon patented the idea of one-click shopping. Turns out, no matter how you code it up, if it only takes one click to buy something, they can sue you. That's not an idea, that's obvious, right? The idea of a patent examiner is the patent examiner is supposed to examine the idea, and if it's obvious, they're not supposed to grant a patent on it. But patent examiners are overworked, and they're basically rubber stamping every patent application that goes through their form because, get this, they are paid by the number of patents they approve. Not the number they process, the number they approve. So they actually have a conflict of interest there to approve everything they possibly can, and they do. In Australia, there was a patent granted for making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Just about everything that one could do has been patented with on the internet appended to it. eBay spent a whole bunch of money building an online auction. Somebody else owned a patent on online auctions and sued them, and it ended up being a big mess. I think eBay actually won that for some reason. I guess they had better lawyers or more money. But yeah, patents are a great mess. Fortunately, they don't last too long. And there's now a whole bunch of arguments about who should own the patent. Is it the guy who came up with the idea first or the guy who patented it first? And that's a big issue that's still being wrangled out. What are trademarks? These protect brand names, like Steamboat Willie, or basically you can't call your product Microsoft, because if you do, or you can make a product, you know, you can call it Mario, you can't call it Nintendo Mario, and that's not even true. Let me put it this way. You cannot, if you take your Mario program that we wrote and you try to upload it to the App Store, you haven't really broken copyright. Well, we did kind of copy those images illegally. I claim fair use because 1, we're not commercial, 2, we're educational purposes, 3, it's a very tiny clip. You see how this meets all the conditions of fair use? Therefore, I feel safe. I don't think Nintendo's going to sue me. But if you go stick your Mario game on the web, Nintendo's going to start getting grumpy about it because...
Exactly like we did for Silent 7?
Yeah. By which I mean, if you start making money off of it, if you stick it in the App Store and start charging $1 for it, you got a bit of a problem. You're also violating trademark, especially if you call it Nintendo or Mario. If you use those terms, you're in big trouble. And even the likeness of Mario is a trademark. So really, you should go erase his mustache or do something that makes it not obviously Nintendo's trademark if you want to do anything with it. Truthfully, go hire an artist and redo all the artwork. But this isn't an art class, so that's why we didn't do that. There's something called a trade secret. Protects. What does this protect? The point of a trade secret is if you hire an employee and he gets all your secrets and then he runs out and tells everybody else, you get to sue that employee. The idea of a trade secret is your company can have secrets that are valuable for your company. And you know how a secret is natural copyright? As long as you keep it secret, nobody can copy it. Well, trade secrets allow you to have employees and still have secrets. They're basically saying, sue employees if they break your natural rights to hold secrets. So it kind of allows companies to exist while acting more like individuals. That's kind of a weird thing. There's also some kind of right to photo likenesses, or what's it called? Photo somethings? I don't even remember what that one's called. But if somebody takes your picture and you're a model, they actually have to have your permission to use it, even if they paid you, even if they have copyright ownership of that. All of this stuff together is kind of put under the umbrella of intellectual property. And some people have taken issue with the word property because it's not property at all. It's actually this contract between the people and the laws, because it actually does take laws to enforce copyright, and it takes a lot of infrastructure to make it work. You have to have a justice system and all these things that you don't have to enforce the notion of property. People can enforce property themselves, but copyright requires a public that's willing on the honor system to not copy stuff and things like that. So I don't even know if that's a good term, but people use the term to mean any type of law that protects your creations. And now I've talked about it for a darn long time, and I feel like you know a lot about it. Any questions on intellectual property or laws or legal stuff?
So you don't legally have to. So you don't have to protect your intellectual property.
No, you can put a license on it. You can license it to the world for free under no obligation, and that's what the CC0 license does.
Can you change your license in the middle?
Yes. In fact, you can dual license something. You can say, in fact, everything is kind of dual license because everything is proprietary by default. And then you also put it under, say, the GPL. And then you can say, well, if you pay me $5, I'll also license it to you without the GPL obligations. So if I release my work under the general public license, meaning everyone can use it if they make their contributions available under the GPL, but you pay me $5, I can say, okay, you don't have to, you have a license. There's nothing at all that says you can't do multiple licenses. I could also do everything under CC0 license too. But if I've got all these licenses on it, well, everyone's going to pick this one because don't have to do anything. So yeah, you can multi-license it, you can change the licenses, you can do whatever you want. Although some of these licenses say that they contain the words in perpetuity or something like that, which is one of those lawyer terms that basically says, if I change my mind, too bad, this one trumps it. So if you're going to release something under the GPL, retracting it actually might not be possible. And so, you know, don't give stuff away unless you really want to give it away. That's kind of the nature of information. Once you give a secret out, it's hard to put it back in the bag, right? So information is just that way. Even if it weren't for copyright law, you know, you can't tell a secret and then say, oh, wait a minute, that's my secret. Everybody forget it now. You know, that's just not going to, it's not going to happen. I got to talk about non-disclosure agreements and EULAs. And I have 2 minutes. Let's see. If you sign a non-disclosure agreement because you're going to work with somebody, do what it says. There, I talked about it. Anybody heard of an end-user license agreement? That's where you install some software and it says basically by clicking yes to install this software, you have to give us your firstborn child and other stuff. End-user license agreements are still in legal limbo. It's not clear what's legal and what's not. It's kind of, you know that whole Google Docs agreement, how they scanned a bunch of books, and that's technically a violation of copyright law, but they're big and they own a bunch of lawyers, and somehow they persuaded everyone to agree that, oh, actually it is. There's a bunch of legal ambiguity in lots of places of copyright law. End user license agreements are one of those. Technically, if you don't read it, you actually have more rights than if you do read it. So you're actually supposed to click through without reading those, but then you'll never know what you agreed to. And some companies claim they're binding, some claim they're not. I don't know what's the right thing to do with EULAs. Basically, I think they're stupid. So if I buy the software, they shouldn't, after the fact, be able to impose a contract on me that I didn't want to agree to. I think that's ethically wrong, if not morally wrong, so I don't feel too bound by them, but they are a legal thing. Be aware of end user license agreements.